Alright, I'm Mary Morrow from St. Clair County High School.
I'm Lori Miller from St. Clair County High School,
And I'm Jenny Carden from Asheville Middle School.
and we are here with Mr. Wayne Trucks, who's our curriculum director.
Okay,
So thank you very much for being here.
you're very welcome.
Okay, I'll start. How do you lead and motivate teachers to adhere to the state standards?
Am I speaking as a building principal, assistant principal, administrator, teacher leader, which?
As the
which activity?
as the
Curriculum.
curriculum
All right.
coordinator.
As the curriculum instruction coordinator, then I work basically with principals to help principals help teachers, okay? And if we're talking about leading and motivating, the things that you would need to write down is the idea that the state curriculum is required, okay? That's gonna be the easiest thing. And so the situation a bit of, hey, regardless of what you think, regardless of what your opinions are, this is what's required by the state of Alabama for our public education system. If you're really talking about motivating teachers, though, I would argue that you really need to model, okay? If you remember from this summer, when I introduced the new unit lesson plan, okay? All right, what I tried to do is meet with folks in each zone to introduce the new unit plan, because it's the idea of, instead of just, hey, here you go, it's the bit of, okay, let's walk through it. And then when we met with high school folks the day before classes started, right? Okay, so which is a perfect time for once again going through it. And if y'all remember back then, I gave everybody a blank one instead of a completed one, and then we tried to complete it. Because y'all know, just like working with students, if I give you an example, you want the completed one so you can just copy it and then you're done, okay? So with the blank one, people are actually having to work through. With the leadership and the motivation is the idea of the modeling of, okay, let's make this work for you. Instead of, hey, here, do this because I said so. Can this help you? What is it that you need to do? What questions do you have? And really make the people struggle, okay?
Okay.
All right, because think about it from, the math, Spanish, and art, okay? The kids that get it, you don't really spend that much time with because you know that they get it.
Yeah.
It's the kids that struggle, and you've got to be able to pat them on the back of, hey, you can do this. Because remember last week, we struggled with fractions or adding exponents. And if you could do through that, then you could do it. Or hey, you couldn't color through the, inside the lines when we first started, now you go. You couldn't conjugate a single verb in the present tense, and now you're able to do AR verbs and ER verbs, but you're not ready for stem changing verbs just yet. So it's trying to give those examples, all right? Because if you're trying to motivate and lead any group, okay, you gotta treat them like they don't know anything. And you gotta allow them an opportunity to struggle and an opportunity to be successful. So what I've tried to do is teach teachers just like I taught students, okay? Is the bit of, hey, I really wanna know what you're thinking. So that, and the best question is why, okay? Why are we doing this, okay? Because the daily lesson plans are the same ones that you've had for 15 years and you don't even look at them, or you just turn them in and the principals know and they don't look at them, and that just doesn't serve a purpose.
I enjoy the new lesson plan.
I hope so. Thank
I
you.
struggled at the beginning,
Absolutely.
but I enjoy it now.
Because it's new and it's different.
I
And who's that
enjoy
guy in the bow tie that keeps creating more work for me, okay? But when we get to, it won't get into this, but I can use this next example. If you think about the acronym ICE, okay, which is part of the new unit plan with the idea of images, conversations, and experiences. And it's something that you already do and have already been doing. It's just kind of more categorized, okay? Because if you think about math, hey, remember when we were doing graphs? Okay, graphs, I know what a graph looks like, okay? If you're talking about a stem change, shoe verb, okay, I get it. Art, it's all about images, okay? And then the conversations tell me what you know. Well, I don't know. Okay, great, then tell me what you don't know. Well, I don't know. Okay, here you go. And that's a struggle, okay? Because as teachers, we want to get through the lesson just as quickly as the kids do, okay? And then with the experiences, if we're relying on stuff that we've done before, okay, that they've had some success with, okay, then I think it's much easier to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish.
Thank you.
Question, okay? All right?
Okay, what tools do you use to assess, identify, and support instructional improvement?
All right, when we're talking about specific tools, if we're talking about assessment, identification, and support, I really think you gotta look at the data, okay? Now, the challenge with that is what do you look at, okay? So, math, you've got it. You've got test scores, you've got state assessments, that type of stuff. All right, good luck.
We know one of the art, yes.
Okay, I mean, but it's a
Right.
bit, and I've talked about it with Miss Bishop
Mhm.
at Moody. If we talk about the state superintendent's submissions, okay, that were judged, evaluated, judged,
Yes.
okay, by the folks at 410 Roy Drive, okay? All right. It's a different audience at 410 Roy Drive, and Ms. Bishop had some questions about one of the works that I found interesting, that many people may or may not have found disturbing. And she was really good about it. It's like, hey, what did the people say about this? I said, well, they didn't say a whole lot. It's like, okay, so they didn't understand it. I said, nope, they sure did not, okay? So the data would be much more effective, okay, if you're talking about prior knowledge or previous performance on tests, and then some kids will be able to read and write well, and some will be able to speak well. But it's gonna be different for each kid, okay, to try and identify areas where they struggle. Student feedback, I think, is gonna be, you know, an important factor to use of, hey, I just don't get that, but that, once again, is a level of trust. And it's also good to ask teachers that as well, of, hey, where is it that you struggle, okay? A lot of times the kids are taking Spanish because they want the advanced diploma. They have no interest in Spanish. Their version of Spanish is whatever they've heard on Taco Bell commercials, okay?
Sure.
With the Yo Quiero Taco Bell, all right? And then you might get the comment from time to time, I don't speak Mexican,
Yes.
okay? And it's very discouraging, okay? But it's the bit of, you've got to figure out where that kid is and why they're having to take it, okay? Art 1 is awful, okay? Because you got kids where it doesn't fit in their schedule, and that's the reason why they're Art 1, right? Your Art 2 kids, hey, go,
But see, I
flourish.
see art one is the beginning of something
You're
great.
more optimistic
Oh,
and
yes.
idealistic than I am.
Yes.
Because I had to have 150 kids taking Art 1, and maybe 40 wanted to take it. But we had
That makes
to
me sad.
find a
Mhm.
place for it. The smart kids took photography because they knew that would be better, because our art teacher was really good with the Art 2s, 3s, and 4s, and did not really have much patience for the Art 1s, okay? Well, good. Great. So what tools do you use to assess and support instructional improvement with your Art 1s?
I do a lot of formal
Okay.
assessment, like on a day-to-day basis. Like
Okay.
today, we did Japanese ink painting.
Okay,
So I'm showing them the techniques, and I'm going one-on-one, making sure they've got the techniques, and if they have questions. And I think we do have a level of trust in my room, where they'll ask me,
sure.
like, hey, can you help me do this?
Yeah.
Or, I don't like this, so then we'll get into, well, what do you not like about it?
Right.
So we can make it what you want it to be.
Right.
So I do a lot of that. My assessment is more like on the spot, right then, conversation,
Very good. Thank you for
watching.
going back to the conversation bit, because that's, you know, hey, do you understand, hey, do you understand? Because if we're waiting until the assessment, the test,
Mhm.
or a quiz, then it's too late to figure out what they know, because we're really finding out what they don't know. State assessments are gonna be big, particularly at the elementary level. At the high school level, you know, of course, we're using pre-ACT and ACT, but if we're using pre-ACT and ACT, by that time, it's really too late, okay? So what we're trying to do is figure out a way to create more time during the day, which is one of the motivations behind the advisory period, is particularly with students that will need help with, say, the ACT work keys, okay? So providing them more opportunities for practice during the day, because, you know, we basically have the kids from 7:50 to 2:50. We're not gonna get a whole lot of kids early, and we're sure as heck aren't gonna get a whole lot of kids staying late. So with the schedule of trying to figure out where they are, so that we can provide more opportunities, particularly with proficiency, because that's gonna be important for the workplace, okay? So data on state assessments, Lexia scores, that type of stuff, more data driven at the elementary level up until about 8th grade, because really your standardized tests or assessments, you know, with the pre-ACT and ACT at the high school level, just kind of measures the overall general knowledge of the student, not necessarily any type of skill or standard or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. How does the use of technology in the classroom impact or has impacted the school's district
Right.
curriculum?
What do y'all think?
Well, the one-to-one is,
Go
He's
ahead.
an
making us
interesting
struggle.
challenge.
He's
Okay.
making us struggle.
No, I'm making you struggle because I want you to be honest with me.
it's an interesting challenge.
Okay, what is it really besides just trying to be nice and saying it's an interesting challenge?
Now, I love it. This is my second year here. I've always had one-to-one for a while, and I got very used to that.
But we don't have one-to-one here.
Okay.
You can look at the camera and be honest, because we don't have one-to-one. We have the access,
Mhm.
but we don't have one-to-one.
Okay,
All right, so we have the opportunity to have it, okay, but we don't really have a one-to-one because the kids aren't walking around with it.
okay,
And we don't have teachers that are comfortable with it,
okay.
because the difficulty of the transition of, hey, it's not added until October, November, or something like that, is trying to find professional development opportunities so that the teachers are comfortable, okay? Because if we're honest about it, if the teacher's not comfortable with it, then they're not gonna require it from the kids, okay? Unless they are required, which goes back to the first question, hey, this is required and here you go, okay? So when we think about a one-to-one approach in Spanish, okay, you have a lot more of the visual options already with the textbook, okay? To where it's a conversation pattern and you've got the dialogue so that the kids can work on vocabulary, tense, and things like that. So there's already that visual element, okay? If we send kids off into the math world and, okay, go to Khan Academy and good luck and see how it does, okay, then that approach doesn't really work with the bit of, teacher self, okay? With art, of course, the introduction of, hey, here you go, what is it, inspire you to do, what does it do? Photoshop is wonderful.
Yes, and it got us the
Okay.
licenses this year,
Okay.
which is big.
You're welcome.
So thank you.
And so it's the bit there that you can do different things with different folks. If it becomes a course that is computer-based and computer-driven, and the teacher is more the facilitator or the moderator, that's all fine and good, but then all we're really doing is we're clicking until completion, okay? And not necessarily proving understanding or mastery of the subject, and that's one of the challenges. So I think the main challenge of the technology is it's still used to enhance, okay? But until the teachers are comfortable with it, we really aren't gonna get very much out of it, okay? And I'll be honest with you, okay? I didn't mind, kids using laptops and stuff, particularly if it allowed them to take notes, and I would do a lot with editorial cartoons, and so it's like, okay, get your laptop, here you go, I posted on a, blog, and then some systems use Moodle, and then I came from a Google Classroom bit to where I could put it there, and then it was the bit of providing kids the opportunities to use computers during the day, but it wasn't a true, one-to-one of, you're gonna use it every class period, every time, okay? Because if it's just replacing the textbook, then that's a different approach. If it's actually being used as an instructional tool, it takes an awful lot of talent and an awful lot of PD, I would argue, on the teacher's side, okay? And then, I had some teachers that would use Mobies for their math class, particularly pre-cal or the unit circle, okay? All right, so it's the idea of the image, and then could go through the process on the Mobi, okay, to where it's the idea of, okay, it's the visual bit, and then kids can do it themselves, okay? But I would still argue that it's gonna rely on the confidence and competence of the teacher in order to make that one-to-one initiative truly successful, okay? Technology is another wonderful tool that we can use, okay? Some of us grew up with what they called encyclopedias, okay? And then the teacher was the main source of information, okay? And then now, if you're just talking about content, that's what Google's for, okay? But if we're talking about skill development, it's still, I think, that partnership between teacher and student, regardless of the tool that they use, is the one that talks about skill development as opposed to content, okay? Because the kids can teach themselves, whatever. My boy is in 9th grade, and they have laptops at school, and they might use it to take notes, or the teacher's uploaded the PowerPoint, so here you go, and it's a Quizlet, okay? That's just like the index cards that we used to have 100 years ago. You had one word, and then you had the definition on the other, and that's how you did it. So it's just a different presentation, but I don't really think that teaching in some subjects has really changed greatly due to technology. It's just, access to more information more quickly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they learn more, okay? And y'all learn that with your graduate class.
Yes.
You copy and paste for the best of them. Fair.
But not for this class.
Not for this
Not
class.
for this
Absolutely
class.
not.
But perhaps for some of the others. Well, if you think about, have y'all had to take a law class or anything like that? Okay, So with the law class, what you're doing is you basically Google the case
Mhm.
and you find the shortest summary that makes sense, okay? And then they've got some sites that give you a 10-page breakdown of the case, and then they've got a paragraph, this is what it's about, and there you go. So you've just got access to the content, but how you use it is gonna be up to you.
Okay.
All right. Question 4, which one do we wanna use? Which one are y'all really interested in?
Well, this question here, do you feel that teachers should have flexibility and input when determining the curriculum? We just had a new math course of study come down.
Yeah. You and I get to talk about that in the next couple of weeks. I know you're excited.
I wonder how much teacher input was really,
That's gonna be a great question. Did you happen to get the copy of the standards, the comparison to,
Mhm.
okay.
I did.
All right. Is there much of a change?
I didn't see a lot of difference.
Okay, all right. If we go the cynical side, then why in the world did we change? Okay, and so it's the bit of, I understand the politics of it, because we can't call it Common Core, because even though it was the governors that decided, it's associated with the Obama administration. And by golly, in Alabama, we're 49th for a reason, and you can't tell us what to do. Fair?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's the bit of, and this is, let me go with my professional answer first, and then I'll give you my
Okay.
personal answer. Question 4. All right. Professionally, from a district perspective, it's going to be difficult to encourage too much flexibility, okay? Because we want to make sure that the students at Asheville Middle School are getting the same instruction or meeting the same standards as the students at Odenville,
Right.
Middle, or Springville Middle, or Ragland, or Steele Junior High, okay? So the challenge there is how much flexibility do you give, okay? From a personal side, have at it, okay? Because it's a bit where, once again, particularly in math, if you're talking about skill development, if we go back to the fine arts and to the Spanish, my area of specialty was Latin America, okay? Latin American studies, because chicks dig Latin American studies majors. Let me tell you how popular I was, okay? But the bit then, that my perspective on world history and US history is different because of my emphasis there, okay? My favorite time period was Romanticism, okay, the post-Napoleonic period that talks about the Latin American revolutions and the idea that everyone is worthwhile. So it's not where you're born, it's what you do, okay? So my favorite unit was Romanticism, talking about the painting, the literature, and the music, okay? And we would spend 3 weeks on it, okay? And it might have a paragraph in most of your world history textbooks, okay? So I was working with principals that gave me the flexibility of like, hey, why in the world are you doing this? Said, because it's important. Does it meet the standards? I'm sure it meets one of them. But the kids need to know this, okay? And you have that flexibility in some courses, but you don't have it in others. So the personal bit, I felt like I did a better job with the units that I was interested in and actually enjoyed, okay, as opposed to the ones like the Industrial Revolution that I hated, and so it became a student project, group project. Here's a worksheet, excuse me, here's a graphic organizer, okay, and then y'all work it out and tell me what you find out, okay? I think you deserve the flexibility in how to cover the standards. It's just making sure that you're covering the standards, but once again, that's the professional opinion, okay? One of the things I think that we're gonna struggle with, particularly with math, is that there's so much, okay? There's so much. So what's really important, where do we need to start? And this is just an example at my last place, is factoring. Is that part of Algebra 1? Okay. Is it a big part of Algebra 1? Okay. But usually it's not until Chapter 5 or Chapter 6.
It's 8 in my book, so
Okay.
yeah.
So what they did for the last 2 years that I was there, they started with it.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it's a bit of why give them the cushion and have a successful first semester when they really have to know factoring in order to get through Algebra 2.
Right.
Okay? And so why ruin second semester when they're going to have to reteach it? Let's go ahead and ruin first semester, okay?
Right, yeah.
Because it's the other stuff we can pick up, but if they can't do this, then they're not ready for the next step, okay? Do you usually start with Gustar when you talk about introducing, Me llamo Wayne and Me gusta el baloncesto, or do you start with whatever they have in the first chapter? Like, do they have a story in Sayre? What does the
Yeah.
textbook do?
With
Okay.
the story.
So it's basically, yo estoy amable. No, that's not right. Yo estoy cansado, yes, okay, so with the I am. The way I was raised, we started with gustar, me gusta, whatever, and we didn't know what reflexive verbs were, okay? But then, by the time we learned how to say, oh, okay, well, that makes sense, okay? And like you said with art, try and start with something that the kids get and understand, because if you don't, if you started with ink prints day
Oh,
one,
no, we start with
done.
line. We start with line.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, so, I mean, it's a bit, though, it allows you the flexibility of figuring out where are the kids and where do they need to start, as opposed to, well, this is the textbook that we started with, and that's what social studies does, okay? Chapter 1, and it's very linear, okay? And that's not always best, okay? But it's a situation, as long as you cover the standards, I'm willing to accept that. Some people aren't, okay? But one of the things that we're gonna have to figure out is those so-called power standards, I think is the approach that I'm trying to use. What is it that we really have to make sure that we've gotta cover, okay? And I'm just there to direct traffic, okay? Because I don't wanna teach math, I should not teach math, okay? And y'all are the experts, and if we can come up with a consensus and maybe do, a pacing guide of, hey, first 9 weeks, let's cover these standards, and then if we end up doing it in a different order, explain to me why, so that I can explain it to somebody when they ask me. Okay. Which question did you really want to know the answer to?
I was gonna go ahead and ask the first one again, just because I was curious about that,
Okay,
but I kind of think we're.
it's okay. No, we're not out
Okay.
of time. You can keep going.
All right. The challenges you face.
Oh, okay, all right. The challenges that I face as a curriculum coordinator, okay? I'm new, okay, so that's one challenge. This position didn't exist. That's the second challenge,
I didn't realize that until just a few days
Yeah,
ago that this
okay.
was new.
right? So there are no expectations, okay? Right, because no one knows what to expect. And I joke and tease about the guy with the bow tie keeps coming around and giving us more stuff to do, okay? But you were there for the writing practices conversation that I had with y'all. And Mr. St. John, their principal, starts giggling about halfway through, okay? And this was what he shared with me, or this is what I remember him sharing with me, okay? He's been principal 7 or 8 years, and I'm the first person from the central office to come and do anything with the teachers. Tell them yes, tell them no, or have a conversation with them about something that they're doing in the classroom. Okay, all right? All right, so, the challenge is, okay, and it goes back to the stuff this summer. I knew that the lesson plan stuff had to change, okay? And I knew that both as a classroom teacher and as an administrator, okay? Because if all it is you're killing trees, okay, or sending me stuff that I can't really look at, and I'm not gonna look at, and then I come into your room, and I can tell within the first 10 or 15 minutes if you're doing a good job or not, okay? But if I am trying to incorporate the images, conversations, and experiences in our instructional conversations, hey, what are you doing? And hey, what questions are you asking? And hey, what are you relaying it back to? The standards will take care of itself, okay? Because just as individuals, okay, instead of just figure it out, okay, it's the bit of, okay, where are you struggling? What are you struggling with, okay? And asking those questions, because most of us want to help. We want to see kids be successful, okay? But if that's never existed in the St. Clair County schools, then challenge number 1 is earning some credit or trust, okay, which was the idea behind the first sessions, because, the folks that show up during the summer either want to destroy you or figure out what you're about, okay? But those are also the folks that you know that if you can get them on your side, which isn't the right phrase, but it's the right phrase, I know that if I can convince them that this is necessary, then I've got a strong core group that understands, here you go, all right? And it's okay if we disagree, okay? Hey, this won't work. Okay, why won't it work? Okay, and if it won't work, then how about this or how about this, okay? The writing practices, all right? I can't wait until next August, 2 days before school starts, and go, hey guys, we're gonna start a new writing practice. You're welcome, okay? So I've got to come, all right? And try and get people to work through it, all right? Now, some are doing it,
Mhm.
some aren't,
We did some of ours today.
okay? And so it's the bit of, okay, I know good and well that there are many people that are just gonna close the door, okay? I can't be in their classroom just yet, okay? But I also don't want to add more burden to the administrators, okay? So it's a bit of, I've got to figure out what I can support and what I can back up, all right? I tried the writing practices as my second year as principal by basically saying, okay, we're gonna focus on writing. Here you go, I'm gonna give you a topic of the month, every class is gonna do something, and there you go. And that was pretty much it, okay? Because I didn't find the time or create the time to go, hey, how's that going? It's like, okay, our monthly writing's going, how's it going? Just as poorly as last month, because basically it's just, hey, this is something, do it, and here you go.
Yeah.
So the teachers that are able to incorporate it into stuff can make it work, okay? Which is the reason why I suggested test corrections for the math folks. So it's something that they're already doing, and just doing it in a different format or a different template, okay, that maybe that can work. So instead of, why does that guy in the bow tie keep finding more stuff for us to do? Maybe it's just a different way of doing stuff that I'm already doing, okay? And maybe I can get some feedback, okay? So that's the bit, and then this semester I revisit, okay? And the principals will probably go, hey, Mr. Trex is coming next week, if you haven't done your writing assignment, do your writing assignment, so that you have something to give him. But I'm not collecting them, okay? I don't have a file at 410 Roy Drive. Look at these great things that I'm doing, okay? Because it's not about me, it's just a bit of, hey, we know that our kids aren't writing enough, so let's figure out a way to get the kids to write more. But we don't want to create 150 essays, okay, for teachers to have to do, because some will read through, some will not, okay? And that's not fair, because depending upon which teacher the computer said that you are gonna have, it shouldn't affect your academic experience, okay? So that's another challenge, okay? Trying to meet the needs of, well, it's not 17, it's 11 different programs, okay? Because basically, every school's been doing their own thing. Fair? Okay? So we've had a system of schools instead of a school system. So the principals, you know, I came in and met with, and they're smart enough to go, oh, that sounds like a great idea, okay? And then go from there, okay? But it's the teachers of, okay, who is this person? Why am I having to do this? Is someone actually gonna check on it? Okay, all right? And that's the reason why I did the lesson plan first, okay, because that's easier. Writing practice is something else. But the other changes, I really am probably gonna have to wait, don't you think? Okay, because we've altered the exam exemption policy just a little bit, but that's the principles. This more standard or uniform grading policy will be okay, I promise, okay? I know,
I'll
but
be
it's just a
fine.
bit, but it's just, it's different in why am I having to do something that's different? Because this is the same thing that I've done for 25 years, or, and so why change it, okay? And, you know, but that also goes back to one of the advantages that I have, and I think I shared that with y'all. I think one of the main reasons why I got this job is because I'm not from here, okay? Because if I had been at Asheville and then come and talk to the folks in Odenville, well, this is what we did in Asheville.
Okay.
It's like, wait, that's Asheville, that's not us, that ain't gonna work here. And so already you've got that, that's not gonna work because that's something different. Or the only reason why he's doing it is because, you know, he's from Asheville. As a teacher leader, and it's a bit where it'll be different, where were you before here?
Hueytown.
Okay, so you had multiple Spanish teachers there, right? Maybe two others?
One other.
You had one other, okay. But y'all probably got along?
Mhm.
Okay. Imagine 3 Spanish teachers, okay, or imagine 3 math teachers or 3 art teachers. Is it gonna work? It'd be wonderful, except for the fact of why aren't you doing what I'm doing? Okay? And if you think about it, my Spanish is peninsular,
Okay.
okay? The 2 ladies that I worked with were hemisphere, okay? Okay, and so it's the bit where it's just a little bit of a different dialect. You know, I do the TH sound instead of a hard D and theta and that stuff like that, mostly just to irritate them because it's just different, okay? So it's the other bit of, it's okay to be different, which goes back to the flexibility, as long as you're underneath the same umbrella, okay? The ones that wanna listen to me, I don't have to worry about, okay? It's the ones that don't wanna listen to me, how uncomfortable do I make them? And if I'm going to make them uncomfortable, how often do I have to visit in order to make them uncomfortable? And that's what I haven't found the time to do,
Okay.
okay? Because, you know, if my bid is curriculum and instruction, okay, I'm spending the majority of my time on the curriculum part and not really on the instruction part, okay? Because if I'm going to be changing the way that we do instruction, maybe not necessarily change, okay? But it goes back to the very first question about the modeling, okay? Well, the ones that want me to come in and model don't need me to come in and model, because they've got it. They just want a different approach, okay? And that's wonderful, because that's an addiction, okay? Of hey, this is someone that thinks like me or seems to enjoy it, so let's, have conversations. It's the ones that always close the door. You never see them in the hallway, okay, unless they're required, okay? But the kids don't seem happy to go into their classroom or to leave their classroom, okay? Because they're not getting any of the feedback, okay? Which means the kids aren't enjoying it, which means the teacher's probably not enjoying it either, okay? All right, and that's a challenge, because those teachers have got 125, 130 kids,
Mhm.
that the computer has decided that that's where they're going to be. It's not fair. That's the way it goes. Okay. Teachers can teach anything, okay? You teach math, okay, but you can teach the others because you'd figure it out. You'd figure it out, you'd figure it out, okay? Because we teach kids. We focus on a subject, but we teach kids. The folks that don't like kids, why have they chosen this? But they have.
Yes, they have.
And y'all are thinking about examples in your own building, right? Okay? You'll know, okay? So how do you make them work? From the guy point of view, I can either pat on the back, or I can just sit and stare and think about other stuff that I would rather be doing than sitting in the classroom. I had teachers at Chelsea that if I had been, destroyed by the phone or the email, that I went to their room to get that refresher, okay, to get that fix, is how I described it, of, hey, there's good stuff going in here, this is what it's all about, it's not the others. And then we would have a fantasy draft for the teachers to observe, okay, all right? And it was the bit of the ones that were picked last for a reason, okay? And it's unfair and it's unprofessional, but it's what we did, okay? And it's just a bit of like, okay, I will take this one, but you have to take this one, okay? And we've got that, and it's that way with any organization, okay? There's kids that we don't like, but we only have to put up with them for 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes at a time. The teachers go through, and even the nice kids will say, well, they're nice, as in they don't yell at me as much as they yell at the other kids, because I've learned how to play the game of school, where I just keep my head down, and I, keep my desk in a row and stuff. I just, cannot imagine anything more miserable. So that's one of the main challenges as a curriculum coordinator. Okay, all right, so which question did you really want me to answer? This would be question 5 or 6?
6. Okay, well, we can end there, because I think we all want to know this, but are we really gonna change the school calendar?
Do you want me to?
Do we need documentation?
And what in the world would that do to curriculum? I mean,